How you doing, guys? One thing I look forward to after I upload a video are the comments. I've always looked forward to the comments. I mean, let's face it, some of them are funny, some of them make good points. And the thing is, I've actually had people make comments that actually gave me ideas for future videos. But let's face it, the first 24 hours, you're pretty much ready for it because you still got all the content fresh in your head. Every so often, you get a comment. It's not a bad comment, but you have to say to yourself, what did this have to do with the video I had just uploaded? So you take a closer look. And it was an older video that they commented on. Sometimes maybe even like 5 or 6 years ago. Well, I will get that quite often, and I don't like to blindly answer because I'm thinking, okay, that was 5 years ago. Maybe I want to go back and take a look and see what I was actually talking about. The other reason is your opinion may have changed since then. Now, when I first started doing my videos, I noticed my first 5 or 6 videos, I was very awkward, very uncomfortable. I didn't know how I wanted to come across. Should I play it straight? Should I joke around? Should I do this? Or should I do that? But I was actually very uncomfortable. Reason being, I only started commenting within a few weeks before I started my channel. And I kept my comments very neutral because I didn't know how touchy some people were, and I didn't know anybody in the community at that time. I didn't know any XJWs personally. I hadn't spoken to anybody at all. Well, first of all, I uploaded my first video July the 22nd, 2017. I did it spur of the moment. It wasn't like I hadn't thought about starting a YouTube channel, but I did it spur of the moment, just out of the clear blue, and I was very uncomfortable. I could tell watching it today. My older videos were just terrible. I leave them be, because that's pretty much got me where I am today. But I had uploaded a number of them before I actually just got comfortable. I think I was up maybe a few days. And I started commenting on this one YouTube channel that I had followed at the time. And the subject of Franz came up. Now, we were going back and forth, and the conversation was going well in the comment section, till I guess I said the wrong thing. Now, what I was meaning to tell him was I was making contrast of the differences, what I heard about Franz when I was in the organization, as opposed to when I was out. So I said, I've heard some god-awful things about Franz when I was a JW. Well, the conversation turned. He got very upset. Apparently, I had offended his hero. He would no longer comment back. So I'm like, wow, he's very touchy. And I figured I didn't know if every XJW was like this, so I figured maybe I better just keep my opinions to myself. Well, I never commented on his channel again. If I have to be somebody I'm not, then I'd rather not say anything. And I started doing the same thing with my videos. Now I said I had uploaded my first video July 22nd, 2017. That first day, I got a whopping 22 views. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to get bombarded with views or if there were to be crickets and tumbleweed blowing across the room and get no views. I didn't know. I had never done this before. But my first few videos were minimal, very minimal views, but the one advantage to that, I could have more of an interaction with the people that were commenting in my comment section. And the funny thing is, some of them are still there today. My very first subscriber, or one of my first, I don't know if it was my very first, was a girl in Sweden. Now, she and I used to interact. She had a channel. I subscribed to her channel because she had some funny videos. She was not an XJW, but she had taken interest in the XJWs, and she was following a number of channels, and somehow she saw me in the comments section, and that's how she found my channel. There were a couple of XJWs who took offense to her having an opinion because she was never one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, the unfortunate thing with that is she was bullied. badly. And she eventually pulled her channel as they were barraging with a bunch of thumbs down. And it hurt her feelings and she vanished, which kind of really ticked me off. Now, the one who did it was somebody I could not stand to begin with. I'm not going to mention her name, but she's no longer out there. But she would have these 3-hour rants and drop the F-bomb like every other word. She was a piece of work, that one. Then I can't say I'm sorry she's gone. As time went on, I got a little bit more comfortable making videos, and the subscriber count was going up slowly, but they were there. Funny thing I noticed, I didn't want to overuse the Bible, because I'm having people in the comment section sometimes saying, read this scripture, read this scripture, read this scripture. I did not want to pound the Bible into people's head, and I've talked about this before, because I'm not a Bible beater. I barely read it anymore anyways, and I didn't want to slight the possible atheists that may be watching. I did not want to come across as a religious channel, so I used the Bible very sparingly. I noticed when I was more myself, the subscriber count would drop. I would never lose 1 or 2 at a time. I would basically lose like 10 at a time. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm a little too rough around the edges for some people. I'm not for everybody. I didn't take it personal. I had noticed most of the people I were following at that time, they had more going on when they were JWs than I did. I was a JW, yes, but only for 10 years, and I was never really fully in. So my experiences as a JW were very limited. And I'm like watching all these other channels and listening to what they're talking about, and I'm like, wow, I'm not going to be out here for a year if I discuss my experiences, which, okay, if it lasts a year, so be it. But I kept going. And I think I had about 700 subscribers. I had just passed the year point, and I literally had nothing else to talk about. And just one night after work, I'm thinking, maybe it's a good idea if I just call it quits. I had done a farewell video. Matter of fact, I never took it down. I think it's still up. I probably should privatize it or something. But I had nothing left to talk about. And I didn't want to start repeating myself, so I basically said goodbye. You know, there's plenty of other XJWs out there. And that lasted maybe about 3 days. And something started coming to my head. Well, I still didn't have a whole lot to talk about until I watched one video. Darrell Wildberg had ticked me off so bad with some of the content. And I had seen him before, but he really wasn't talking about anything that was horrific or pissing anybody off. But there's one video, if you all remember, when he was talking about Candace Conti, and I'm like, listening to this blowhard, that fired me up, and I went after him. Well, apparently he saw the video and he fired back. And for the next few weeks, he and I are going back and forth. Now, I had moved while I was warring with Darrow. He had gone after a couple of the girls, and in turn, I went after him. Now, I had moved here shortly thereafter, and this was still going on. But I'm like, okay, I don't want to base my channel on going after people. I'm thinking, people are going to think this is what I do, is just go after people. So I figured maybe I better back off. I kind of did for a while. At the same time, I was getting phone calls about somebody who had infiltrated the XJWs. And I think you all remember the JW Abuse Hotline. I had talked to enough people where I figured, this guy is dangerous. Got to get the warning out. Well, I did, as well as several others, which was a good thing. Other people who had involvement with him were out there as well. And he disappeared into the woodwork, which is a good thing. But I noticed, when you go after people, what do they all have in common, no matter who it is? They all have their defenders. And that kind of concerned me, because I'm thinking, okay, why are you taking this personal? There was one XJW who, sometimes I wonder if he's still in, who actually defended JW Abuse Hotline, then on his Facebook page made a very ignorant comment as far as people like this causing division amongst the XJW community, and they can be worse than pedophiles. That comment in itself pissed me off, because nothing is worse than a pedophile. But I noticed they all want to kind of keep nice tone. They're all nice people. We all got to hold hands and get along. Well, what I saw was them discarding the governing body and replacing them with somebody else. Black and white thinking does not work in the real world, but this is what they have. And the thing is, you either think like us or you're not part of us. Now, let's face it, to be a JW comes with conditions. And what I was seeing, being an XJW, seemed to me to also come with conditions. Well, JW abuse hotline vanished. Shortly thereafter, we had a problem with a pervert that also had infiltrated for some time. Now, he wasn't new to the community. Everybody knew who he was. I'm not going to mention his name. I think you all know who he is. But I saw a hazard because he was stalking a lot of the women in the community. He also had his defenders. The one thing is, most of the people that had defended him quickly changed their tune when they found out that we were right about him. But I was thinking, this is what my channel has become, going after other people. Well, I figured I'd better back off for a while. So I did. But I still didn't want to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. I didn't have a whole lot to say. So I started drifting off into other subjects. My views for the next year had tapered off greatly. I wasn't getting as much subscribers as I wasn't getting nearly as many views, and I'm like, well, I would like to go on to other subjects, but nobody is really interested. I had a conversation over the phone last week with a former YouTuber who was complimenting me on my videos and said, you know, you think outside of the box. That got me thinking, because I was actually never in the box. And I noticed, and I don't know when I started doing this, I started after all this time speaking more like I was having a conversation. I didn't speak in the box because I was never in, so I pretty much called it the way I saw it. The only way I could discuss the topic of Jehovah's Witnesses or Watchtower was by applying them with experiences I've had in my life. But the one thing I had found out, and I have said this before, there is not a XJW community. There are many. And unfortunately, there are some out there that will never think out of the box, because although they have come out of the cult, they are mentally still in the cult. They can't get the cult out of them. And they still have that black and white thinking. We all have to get along. And basically, nobody's going to get along wherever you go. People are going to have their differences. But what I'm seeing is many different communities, much like the real world. Unfortunately, some of them have woke up to Jehovah's Witnesses, yet on the outside, they're still asleep. But when I have these defenders come out, now I went after Thai Man briefly a few weeks ago. And again, I think I did last year as well. And he had his defenders as well. And I always wondered, why the hell do people take these things personal? It's kind of like being a JW, talking about the governing body, and have some Jehovah's Witnesses get all fired up because you said something about the governing body. And that's the way these XJW defenders come across. When they defend Thai Man, this one, the other one, why take it personal? The comment was not about you. Now, I've heard comments about YouTubers I follow that I didn't agree with, but I don't go after people for them. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But apparently, some people don't think I'm entitled to mine. Well, that shit's not going to change. But that was pointed out to me this week. And I've been thinking about it. And I'm like, yeah, there is not a community. There's a bunch of little different people, and not everybody's going to get along. Because this person that I was talking to was being ganged on a few years ago, supposedly harassing this one channel with prank phone calls. Now, I stuck up for him at the time because the reason I know it wasn't him is while this was going on, he was on the phone with me this one time, and we're both like, can you believe this shit? But sometimes people got to think. You're going to hear something you don't like. And I don't go after anybody unless I know what I'm talking about. But I'm very, very limited who I go after now because a lot of times people don't appreciate it. But if I do see somebody as a danger to others, I will get the warning out, whether you like it, whether you don't like it. That's something I just wanted to get out, guys. I don't have a lot of free time these days, so I like to get a video out when I can. Anyways, guys, just think about it. You're going to hear things you're not going to agree with. Do not take it personal. Get rid of this black and white thinking. You're either with us or you're against us. No, the real world doesn't work that way. Anyways, guys, you all have a good day. I'll be talking to you soon.